This bike behind me is the CYKE Falcon X. This is a massive bike built for all-terrain, all-season, all-weather riding. It's also packing one of the market's most powerful mid-drives, and nothing makes a good first impression like a strong motor. Let's put this big bike under the microscope and find out how it does in our testing. Hey everybody, I'm Griffin, and if you're a fan of e-bikes, make sure you're subscribed to our channel. Our team has tested and reviewed hundreds of e-bikes with new videos dropping a couple of times a week, and that includes insights on industry news and updates, so hit the notification bell so you don't miss out. So the Falcon X is one of 3 models in CYKE's eMTB series. The Falcon S and Falcon A bikes share the same frame design but are more traditional mountain bikes with narrower tires, while this one gets the upgrade to the largest tires and the most powerful motor. It can handle many things from light to intermediate single track, double track, fire roads, and more. I have the most fun with it out in OHV areas where I'm nearly keeping up with dirt bikes. Seriously though, I can almost keep up. This bike is so fast. This review is frankly surprising as I hadn't heard a ton about CYKE before. However, I thought this bike had some great value. Let me give you all the main points up front before we go through all of the components and testing. The main draw of this bike is its power. The bike uses a Bafang M620 motor, which is one of the strongest mid-drive motors you'll find anywhere. It has 1,000 watts of nominal power and 1,100 watt peak, and an extreme 160 newton meters of torque. All of that translates to a ride that's about as fast and powerful as anything I have tested in my years of reviewing e-bikes. Just remember, you'll need to check what trails you're riding to see that that's kosher, or scale down the speed and power in the app to get compliant. Second is the tires and what it changes the bike into. The bike has Maxxis Minion fat tires. They are 26 by 4.8 inches wide. Now, there is a sea of fat tire e-bikes out there, but most are commuters with some light off-roading potential. Now these tires, paired with the frame's geo, the motor, and the suspension, make this a year-round riding machine. It just has great stability. It's a bike that I think would be great for camping, overlanding, and maybe hunting. I've ridden this over dirt, gravel, and sand, and regardless of whether it's hardpack or the soft stuff, it just is more capable than your average off-roader with the motor's muscle and that wide footprint and traction of the tire. And as a final point, CYKE really impressed me with the value of the Falcon X. Now, if you pull up a spreadsheet and start adding up some of the prices of the componentry we're about to look at, you'll quickly start to realize that $3,000 price tag is lower than you'd expect. Now, $3,000 isn't pocket change, but amongst similar massive all-terrain e-bikes I've tested, this performs about as good and in some regards better, and most of the other ones that I've looked at are priced between $4,000 and $7,000. Okay, let's go ahead and detail everything you get with the Falcon X. It's an aluminum frame that comes in 17 or 19 inch sizes, and it's available in either a dark blue or a desert yellow. It's pretty heavy. It weighed 86 pounds on our scales, but if you drop the battery out, it'll save you about 12 pounds, so that helps it to fit some of the higher weight rated hitch racks out there. The drivetrain is a SRAM X5 9-speed. It features a 40-tooth chainring and an 11 to 34-tooth cassette. The brakes are Tektro Dorados, which are a 4-piston hydraulic paired with 203mm rotors front and back. The suspension system was pretty impressive. You have an RST Renegade 26 air fork with 120mm of travel, and then the rear shock is the RockShox Deluxe Select, which is a 45mm shaft, but with the linkage is more like 150mm worth of travel. It has a fixed collar seat post with a Velo saddle for riding on. The cockpit has a 780mm wide handlebar, Velo grips, and rapid fire shifters on the right, and over on the left is the thumb throttle and PAS controls. The middle has a large 4-inch color screen. Like I said, that's a lot of bike, but let's talk a little bit more about how the motor performs. So let's keep it simple. The Bafang M620 motor is one of the most powerful mid-drives on the market. Let me give you those numbers again. 1,000 watts of nominal, 1,100 watts of peak power, and 160 newton meters of torque. That's right, 160. You won't find many e-bikes with that kind of torque. It makes it super helpful on hills, and you can get the bike going up to 35 miles per hour when unlocked. Now, where the motor excels in raw power, it does fairly well at engagement. There was a time when I thought of this motor as being too powerful on some of the previous e-bikes I've tested, but CYKE has it programmed for success here on the Falcon X. The acceleration is still quick, but it ramps things up a little bit more precisely. It's a mid-drive, so it does pull on your drivetrain, and if you were to blast full torque off the line, you could start snapping teeth off of the cogs. So I think it's largely balancing power distributed in a way that won't wear down your chain and cassette too quickly. Now, there are further guardrails in place too, which are mostly positive but do take some getting used to. There are sensors on the shifters and the brakes that will pause motor output. Again, safety and drivetrain durability were kept in mind, but I found the delay from shifting to be a tad too long in certain situations when riding, so I wouldn't mind if it were a little bit shortened up. But of course, once you figure out the nuances of the system, it's just wicked powerful and fully equipped to move such a heavy bike. I also like the throttle here. It helped me focus more on the ride in certain situations. I'm going to show you these later on in ride quality, but I'll just say for now, it is a blast when riding around. With the battery, you get a massive 960 watt-hour unit in the middle of the down tube made from LG cells. Big motors need big batteries, so I'm glad it was spec'd accordingly. And on a final note, the system is TÜV certified, which is in accordance with UL standards, so it's also a safe electrical system all around. The Falcon X includes a nice Bafang color display. It is 4 inches in size and was easy to read in sunlight. It's IP66 rated, so it'll hold up in your typical weather conditions. You can customize the interface and access and tailor some of the motor outputs in the menu options, but you can do a bit more in the bike's apps. And that's right, I said apps plural. The CYKE Assistant app is a bit basic for now, but it seems new, so it might include a bit more functionality down the road with some updates. The best thing it does is run diagnostics of the electrical systems and let you easily contact the brand if there are issues. It has some redundant data you can get from the display and an online library of owner manuals as well. But you can do a bit more in the second app. So the Bafang Go Plus app will give you more precise tuning on the motor. Here you can change the speed level, power output, which will lower the wattage and make your ride trail compliant, and the amount of assistance you get at various PAS levels. And then finally, you can adjust the delay it takes for motor engagement to activate when you initially pedal. You can't lower it to 0, but you can reduce it so it's less noticeable. Now, I'd recommend getting both of these apps if your phone has the space, but for me, I use the Bafang app just a little bit more to get all of my motor output set to a place that I liked. The battery's range is often a trade-off with bikes like the Falcon X. They are big and heavy, 86 pounds heavy in this case, and they have very powerful motors. It's often a recipe for burning quickly through the battery. Now, we've had some bikes in the all-terrain class that do not even eclipse 10 miles when set to high power. But of course, we had to see if that was the case here with this battery, so we did a range test. Now, we tested out the Falcon X set to its boost mode and a 20 mile per hour limit for compliance and comparison purposes. And we got a result of 32.34 miles in an hour and 49 minutes of ride time and climbing 769 feet in elevation. Now, that was actually better mileage than I was originally anticipating. So granted, the power output was dialed back, and if you were to run it full bore, it won't go quite that long, but this was still really good and on the higher end of results for this style of bike. The one thing we noticed was there was a sharp power drop-off with 15% battery remaining, a good 8 to 10 miles per hour slower, and you had to increase your personal output a lot. So I'd make sure to wrap up the ride with battery to spare. Overall, that's really solid mileage, which further adds to the bike's value, so I'd give it good marks in the range test. For each bike we bring to our channel for review, we start hill testing at Hellhole Trail. This charmingly named hill is a 1/3 of a mile long and has an average 12% grade. Now, since bikes like this are meant for the backcountry, we take them to an off-road climb at our secondary Water Tower test hill. It's just under a mile long and has an average 5.5% grade. Justin is our dedicated hill tester on both hills. I'm gonna pass it over to him so you can see how it went.
Okay, we're out here on the CYKE Falcon X on the throttle test, and it feels like it's just bombing up this hill. Not down, up. It feels pretty powerful. 17.2 through here, 17.1, 15.7.5. So we kind of bottomed out at about 15.1 miles per hour. You do hear the motor. I'll let you listen to it through this section right here. So yeah, the motor's a little louder, both in noise and then also that frequency is a little higher, but when you're going up a hill going 16, 70 miles per hour, not too many motors are going that fast, so it's probably not necessarily a fair comparison. This is going to be a pretty good result. Feels very solid, very powerful again on throttle, so let's go check the results. Okay, we're back out on the CYKE Falcon 2 again, this time on the pedal. We'll see if it goes up as fast pedaling as it did on throttle. Feeling pretty peppy so far at about 15 miles per hour, 14.7, 14.1, 2. Yeah, 14.2, bottomed out there. I have not had to shift. It is, you know, mid-drive, obviously, with torque sensor, so I've got to put some weight into it, but I'm not putting a ton on this one, gonna be honest. This is doing really well. Let you listen to the motor here. Yeah, so again, that motor a little bit louder than average, but also faster than average. It feels more powerful. So I think we're gonna have a pretty good result here on this one. Didn't have to shift at all, climbing pretty easily. Definitely on the powerful side. So let's go check the results. All right, we are now doing the water tower hill climb on the CYKE Falcon X. It's got that 1,000-watt Bafang mid-drive motor, and so far it feels pretty darn peppy, I'll be honest. So I'm gonna ride for a minute here, and then I'll come back with some commentary and some of my thoughts. Okay, so far, even with these really big tires, the motor, I mean, the bike feels very peppy. Like, I've been going a good between 16 and 19, 20 miles an hour. I think the results are going to be pretty good. As far as the motor goes, it's quieter than I expected. I'm not sure how much you can hear or not. Gets a little windy when you're flying up a hill, 21 miles an hour. So yeah, it is going slightly above 20. And like I said, it feels a little more peppy than I expected. I think that 1,000 watts is really kind of kicking in. And I have a feeling we're gonna have a good result here. So let's get to the tape and we'll check it out.
Have yourself a day, Psych Bike. Okay, so first up on Hellhole, Justin was able to throttle to the top in 1 minute and 1 second. That comes out to a 17.8 mile per hour average. Then he ran it up again with pedaling, where it slowed just a bit to a time of 1 minute and 7 seconds for a 16.2 mile per hour average. So that makes the Falcon X our 3rd fastest throttle result ever and our 16th fastest since Justin became the full-time hill tester about 200 bikes ago. Then, over on the water tower, it had a very strong showing as well, where it became the new king of the mountain. It finished in 3 minutes and 2 seconds for an average of 17.1 miles per hour. Now, this particular test was established just earlier this year, and the sample size is smaller, but it's our new #1 by a comfortable 11 seconds. The analysis here is really pretty easy. The bike can crush hills, which is really impressive given its weight and wide tires. The M620 motor just really packs a punch and can fly when it has a full head of steam. The only thing worth remembering about hills is that the bike does not have a dropper post, so I wouldn't seek out too steep a downhills, but when it comes to going up them, this thing can handle most climbs with no problem. All right, guys. Just been out here on our local trail system for the last hour, getting one more ride in, just trying to gather all of my thoughts. And I gotta say, I just kind of keep coming back to how much I like the suspension on this. It's a very soft, very easy ride. Again, for $3,000 to get, you know, an all-air suspension system, I think that is great. I've ridden some $4,000 all-terrain e-bikes that, you know, you still just had a coil front fork, and so I think it's just really great value. It's been a very soft, very forgiving ride, you know, in a lot of respects. And of course, alongside, you know, the wider tires, the 4.8-inch tire, I've got it, you know, the pressure running a little bit lower on this. This is about as soft and forgiving and just comfortable of an all-terrain bike as I've ridden. So, really good job to CYKE on that. Now let's talk a little bit about the wheelbase. That's another thing too that's really stood out to me, is just how balanced, how planted the ride feels. It's definitely long, like one of the longest, nearly 52 inches that I've seen and ridden. And along with those 4.5 or 4.8-inch wide tires, you know, it's just a very easy to balance bike. If you haven't done a lot of off-road riding, if you are, or, you know, it's been a while since you've been into it, you're gonna find it's just very easy to kind of like get back in the swing of things. It's very forgiving. And again, one of the other benefits of the tire is it just kind of, you know, you can rumble, bumble, and stumble your way over some stuff that you might not be able to get away with on a different tire. It's just, again, forgiving is kind of the word I keep coming back to. You don't have to be quite as precise. Precision always helps, pick good lines, don't get me wrong, but just in general, yeah, it's just got a very good sense of control when you feel as balanced as you do on this one. Now, one of the shortcomings that it does have is that lack of a dropper post. So it's not necessarily a need for this bike. Like, I'm riding around on one of our, you know, easier green trails, taking it on some of the blues. It does just fine. I've got the saddle height, you know, set a little bit lower than I ordinarily would, just to kind of help compensate, find a good middle ground. And it's been doing just fine. But yeah, you know, it is something that's gonna prevent you from going on anything that's got a lot of downhill or very steep descent sections. Definitely wouldn't be like, you know, my go-to for that. But again, I think for more of that easygoing, mellow, just flowy, enjoyable single track, I think it's doing a great job, just allowing me to focus on how comfortable it is, just, you know, ride around, enjoy taking the local scenery. Now, coming back to something I've mentioned a couple times in the review, it's the motor engagement. So the motor power itself is awesome, phenomenal. I can climb anything out here, so long as I've got either a good head of steam, you know, I just don't have to shift. I find that, you know, shifting definitely kind of just throws you off a little bit. I still wish I could dial back the delay a little bit more, just to not make it feel so severe. There's definitely been a couple of times where I didn't have a good head of steam going into, you know, a hill, wasn't in quite the right gear, try to get up it, can't, try shifting, kills the momentum a little bit, then I end up putting a foot down. Now, the thing is, when I take like a second run at it, knowing what's up ahead, I'm fine, and I can get to the top, so that's good. So, just again, it's gotta be a little conscientious about, you know, finding a good gear to ride in, and downshifting a little bit in advance, just to make sure the motor delay doesn't catch you. But if you do it all right, I mean, this thing is as good a climber, as capable as anything I've ridden. So what I have kind of found that I do a lot is I've just been mostly sticking to, you know, one of my middle gears. I don't change it too much. I've actually found myself changing the power settings a little bit more than I ordinarily would. Usually when I'm out mountain biking, I will put that in a middle power level and then largely forget it unless I'm just hitting like a lot of steep climbing, that I might boost it up a little bit. But this is one I kind of found myself playing with it just a little bit more. And I kind of like that a little bit better, because you can feel, I mean, it respects the power level increase just about instantaneously. And so that's been the best for me to just kind of navigate through it all. All right, then this is one of the more interesting things about the Falcon X. This is, you know, we're gonna go somewhere ordinarily I would definitely steer clear of with my mountain bike. You know, the bikes go around, ATVs might cut through it. This old kind of washed out trail right here because it's very sandy. It's one of those things you kind of know the outcome on a regular bike before you go into it. You're gonna slide all over, you're gonna end up having to walk out through it. But again, really wide, fat tire, good motor power. Let's see if we can't just kind of get through all this sand here. Oh man, this is a lot of fun. All right, made it through. So like, that's just like really awesome. It's really fun. You can kind of just explore a little bit more easily at the very least, because, you know, in this case, I'm just kind of hitting that throttle, riding through the sand. And of course, I mean, this tire is actually built as a snow tire, so it should do pretty well, you know, going across some snow too. It's just very, very unique, very fun. I mean, it's just, my goodness. A little bit more here. So yeah, definitely a lot of fun, kind of just finding new areas you can kind of go to and access, and that's why it makes it such a good, capable, all-season, all-terrain machine. It's gonna hold up going through just about anything that you can come across. So overall, yeah, just really, really fun bike, really fun exploring potential. So the bike's comfort, value, and versatility are definitely the highlights. It's also just really cool that it doesn't matter too much if you see a lot of weather or live more out in the country. This bike will be highly capable in various settings. I think one area that could be a little bit different though is the sizing. The wheelbase is huge, and that's mostly a plus as I've mentioned, but I noticed there is a pretty large gap between the tire and the linkage. It feels like CYKE could possibly shorten the chainstays and seat stays up to about an inch, which may give the rear of the bike a bit better handling, but it would definitely shore up some of the chain slap that occurs. Now I appreciate that it has a slap guard, but it would be good to have a little bit less chain motion overall. Bikes like this one are just an experience unto themselves. I love zooming over our desert roads, and the bike soaks up the chatter really well and lets me fly like I'm on a dirt bike. It's not the most nimble or agile thing ever, but you can still find yourself on some single track and enjoy the benefits of comfort and stability. And then of course, this serves a need. Riding season is cut short in a lot of places due to weather, but less so for this one. It can handle some mud and snow and can help you explore soft or hard pack areas. Outside of dialing back the motor delay after shifting and braking just a bit, there's not a lot that got in the way of enjoying my time on the CYKE bike here. If you want something for riding year-round or overlanding, I think the Falcon X is worth a closer look. That'll do it for this review. Let me know what you think and what questions you have about the Falcon X in the comments. If you're thinking about buying one for yourself, using our affiliate link in the video description is a great way to support the testing we do without increasing any cost to you. I'm Griffin with Electric Bike Report, and I'll see you on the next review.